There's this one country that is extremely dependent on another country. If it wasn't for this other country, the first one would be in serious trouble. But what country is this, and why? Is it Canada and the United States? Well, not exactly.
Yes.
Canada depends on the US for some things, but the US doesn't depend on Canada for much. It's more like the US depends on this tiny country. This is Panama. It's this little small country between Costa Rica and Colombia. And its most valuable possession is this 82 kilometers long canal that cuts across the entire country. The Panama Canal allows ships to travel from the east coast of the United States to the west coast and vice versa. This means that America can import and export things to and from Asia much easier. Without this canal, they'd have to go all the way around South America, which takes a lot longer. There are two routes, one on the top and one on the bottom. The southern route is 14,000 kilometers, while the northern route is almost 20,000 kilometers. Both routes are pretty dangerous too, with pirates and rough waters. That's why when the French started digging the canal in the 1880s, everyone was pretty excited. However, they ran out of money and the project was abandoned until the Americans came along. The US built the canal over a span of 10 years, finishing it in 1914. They had to blast through solid rock to make the canal possible. The US paid Panama $10 million to build the canal, plus an additional $400,000 every year for its upkeep. Plus, the US also got exclusive rights to the canal until 1977. After this date, Panama took control of the canal. Despite this, the US still has a strong presence in Panama, especially at the canal where they have a military base there to ensure the safe passage of American ships. The Panama Canal is 50 miles shorter than going around South America, meaning ships save a lot on fuel, time, and money. For these reasons, about 6% of all U.S. trade goes through the canal. This includes crude oil, cars, grains, electronics, meat, machinery, and computers. According to the Panama Canal Authority, 14,000 ships go through the canal each year. Each ship carries on average 45,000 tons of cargo, worth an average of $370 million. On average, about 15% of all goods imported into the United States during 2019 passed through the Panama Canal. It's no exaggeration to say that without the Panama Canal, the United States wouldn't be the global power that it is today. But Panama isn't the only country that benefits from the Panama Canal. In fact, every country in the Americas benefits from it. This includes Canada, Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, and everyone in between. If any of these countries wanted to trade with China before the canal, they'd have to go around South America, taking weeks to get there. Now they just have to travel a few hundred kilometers through Panama, and then they're there. In addition to speed and cost efficiency, the canal also reduces pollution because the ships don't have to go as far. If you're wondering who controls the canal today, it's the Panama Canal Authority. As I mentioned earlier, the U.S. gave back control of the canal to Panama in 1977. Today, it's run by a separate government entity called the Panama Canal Authority, or ACP. They set the rules and regulations for ships traveling through the canal. The ACP makes sure that all ships going through the canal are safe and don't pollute. It's a popular place for tourists as well. You can take a cruise through the canal, or even walk across the Centennial Bridge, which connects the two sides. In 2015, Panama expanded the canal so larger ships could pass through. This meant blasting through solid rock and building a third lane for ships to pass through. The expansion cost $5.4 billion and took 8 years to complete. This new lane means that ships up to 12 meters deep and 400 meters long can now pass through the canal. With this, bigger ships coming from Asia can finally reach the U.S. East Coast directly. Before they'd have to be unloaded onto smaller ships in places like New York or Florida. Of course, the expansion didn't come without criticism. Some people argued that Panama was taking on too much debt to build it. Others argued that the expansion would damage the environment. While the Panama Canal brings in billions of dollars each year, it's not a huge amount considering how much traffic goes through it. You'd think that tolls on the Panama Canal would be super high, but they're actually pretty low. Here's how much ships have to pay to go through the canal. To calculate how much ships have to pay, we multiply the transit with a toll per running meter. The transit is basically the length of the canal that the ship uses. The toll per running meter varies depending on the type of vessel and how much it displaces. Basically, the bigger the ship, the higher the toll. But even though these tolls seem like a good source of revenue for Panama, they're not. Most of the money Panama makes from the canal comes from the actual Panama Canal Authority itself. This includes salaries, selling land, and tourism. Just consider this. In 2019, Panama earned $304 million from tolls, but spent $510 million maintaining the canal. So they're already in the red just maintaining the canal. Then add in the costs of expanding the canal, and you can see why Panama needs to earn money from other places. Panama does a lot of business with the Chinese. Since the Chinese have invested billions of dollars into Panama, China has become Panama's largest trading partner, surpassing the US and the EU combined. In 2019, Panama and China signed a free trade agreement, making it easier for them to do business together. One of China's biggest investments in Panama is the Panama Canal Railway. The Chinese bought the railway for $1.6 billion and modernized it so that freight trains can go all the way from the Atlantic to the Pacific. The Panama Canal Railway allows companies to send goods from Asia to the United States in a matter of hours. This is faster and cheaper than shipping goods around South America. China has also invested into Panamanian roads, ports, and airports. For example, they helped build the Tocumen International Airport, which is now the largest airport in Latin America. Here are the top exports from Panama. You can see that everything Panama exports is either related to the canal or the service industry. Panama exports $3.7 billion worth of services to the world. This includes financial services, transportation, and shipping. Panama also exports $2.3 billion worth of products. These include rum, sugar, chicken, bananas, and pineapples. In total, Panama has an economy of $35 billion. Considering this, it's not surprising that Panama's GDP grew by 5.4% in 2019. This growth is mainly driven by their service industries and construction industries. These industries are likely driven by the ongoing maintenance and expansions of the Panama Canal. While the canal brings in a steady amount of money, it's not enough to make Panama rich. They need to diversify their economy and move away from being solely reliant on the canal. While the Panama Canal brings in billions of dollars each year, it's not a huge amount considering how much traffic goes through it. You'd think that tolls on the Panama Canal would be super high, but they're actually pretty low. For example, if a container ship wants to go from the Atlantic to the Pacific, they'll have to go through 3 different locks. Each lock will raise or lower the ship by 16 meters. The Panama Canal is made up of 4 sections. The first section is the Gatun Lake. This is a man-made lake created by damming the Gatun River. The second section is the Culebra Cut. This is a 7-kilometer-long cut through the Continental Divide. The third section is the Panama or Gatun Locks. These locks raise ships 26 meters as they enter the lake. The fourth section is Gatun Lake again. Then the ships go through the Pedro Miguel Locks, which lower the ships 26 meters. Then they go through the Miraflores Locks, which lower the ships another 16 meters. Ships going from the Pacific to the Atlantic go through these locks in reverse order. I think it's safe to say that the Panama Canal is one of the greatest engineering projects ever undertaken. It's allowed nations all around the world to trade with each other much easier, and it's brought Panama billions of dollars over the decades. But what do you think? What's your favorite fact about the Panama Canal? Comment that down below. Also, make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. Anyways, everyone, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for another geography video.